Well, thank you. I'm very pleased. Excuse me. I'm very pleased to be here, and I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for me to see democracy in action. Information and the flow of information is absolutely critical to an informed electorate. So, let's begin.
Opening statements.
Yes. Now, have you decided on the order?
Let me go first?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Good afternoon. I am Mayor Dave Coulter. It is my, first I want to thank the Citizens for a Fair Ferndale for hosting this forum. You guys have done such a wonderful job over the last few years of educating our community. Thanks everybody for turning out. I see a lot of friendly faces, including the council candidates. It's great that you guys are here as well. That reminds me that, in Ferndale, we can have these sort of spirited discussions, and we had a spirited election in May, but one of the great things I think about this community is that we can disagree without being disagreeable, and at the end of the day, we come back and we're all supportive, and we put the community's interest first. And that's the kind of mayor I've tried to be. I think that's the kind of campaign that both of us have run, and I think the council candidates as well. This is a very special community. People ask me why I'm running, and the simple answer is because I love this city and I want to contribute to not only the great things that we have going on, but to try to protect its future. Finances are our greatest challenge. We are just emerging from the worst recession in my lifetime anyway, and it is critically important that if we're going to continue the success of our city, that we put it on solid financial footing, adopt budgets that are as lean as possible, saving money wherever possible, but also making the strategic investments in the community that will help us emerge and lead the region. This library, I think, is a great example. I was a trustee of the library when we started moving on the path of the expansion. To me, this is a great example of how, even in tough times, there are investments that you can make in your community that will make it attractive to families and people that want to move here. So I think the challenge of being in office today is trying to strike that balance between saving as much money as you possibly can, cutting as much as you can, but also making those strategic investments that will make Ferndale attractive to families and individuals going forward. That's what I've tried to do as mayor, and with your support in November, that's what I'll do for the next 2 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next presenter.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ray Willis. I sat down twice to answer the questions that were put in front of me, and I always got stuck on the first one, which is why did you decide to run for mayor? I'm going to tell a little story, and it's going to answer some of these questions instead of giving my biology, whatever. Everybody's kind of heard. It's all been printed. So this is a. I left Royal Oak when I was 18 to attend Grand Valley State University. I lived in Grand Rapids for 20 years at that time during college. When I left, my parents split after 6 kids in 32 years. So there was no going back home. It was, for me, sink or swim. Out of the 11 students from Royal Oak Kimball that went to Grand Valley, 2 of us made it to our sophomore year. I worked full-time in restaurants, and I took classes full-time. I also joined the Army Reserves to help pay for college. I moved in my second year with my girlfriend, who would become my wife, my first wife. We lived in cheap apartments and drove old cars. Both of us worked, and we lived a very frugal life to be able to afford college. After college, I bought my first house when I was 23 and bought my first business when I was 25. I bought an old restaurant, incorporated it, and remodeled it. After 5 years of dabbling in the restaurant business and fixing up a 100-year-old house, I found that I liked to repair things and fix things. So I started another business, incorporated, and worked on new homes. There's, of course, when a builder builds new homes, there's a whole bunch of different people that work for him. I found that new homes wasn't very satisfying. They were pretty junky and built very fast, so I went into the remodeling business. I traveled all over West Michigan, out of Grand Rapids, working as a remodeler. We sold the house for quite a good profit, the same with the business, and I moved back to this side of the state 10 years ago. One of the reasons why I moved back is there was no other children here from my family, and my mother lives in Royal Oak, and she needed someone to take care of her because she's pretty much a shut-in. I also liked the area, and my second wife was from Dearborn. After being here for just a year and a half, we bought the house at 530 Wanda. We picked Ferndale because it was affordable. I had a choice to move to Warren, Hazel Park, or Ferndale, and we picked it here because we could afford that. I'll finish this at the end. Go ahead.
Well, some excellent questions have come in. I think they're really focused on the on the issues. The first question is rather broad, and it's stated this way: Ferndale's biggest challenges are. Fill in the blanks. Now, do you want to go in the order that you were presenting?
I thought she wanted us to. We'll take turns. So sure.
All right. So we'll flip it back and forth then. So Ray Willis, what are the biggest challenges facing Ferndale? 2 minutes.
Financial, budget, and crime. I feel, and these are one and the same because if you, we don't have a real big expenditure for a whole lot of different things besides the fire and the police department, and you have to keep these up. One of the reasons why I moved to Ferndale is because besides the police department, is also in Grand Rapids, you paid $1.50 for a tag to put on your trash bag. I can throw anything out in front of my house and it'll be removed. The streets are kept clean. The leaves are picked up. In Grand Rapids, you had to buy bags at Myers, and I live on 2 lots, and there's a lot of trash generated just by the trees in the area. The millage is a big question that I seem to becoming heard a lot about. If you really want to have the quality of life, you're going to have to spend a little extra money, and that's what we have here in Ferndale. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, Dave Coulter.
Well, I would agree, and as I mentioned in my opening, finances are our greatest challenge, no question about it. And I think Ray sort of hit on, it's not just, all communities have less revenue. So it's not just the fact that we have less revenue, but we are a community that expects and wants a high level of service. The leaf pickup, the police protection where they're there within 2 minutes when you call, good full service fire protection. We want full service. And doing that with the declining revenues that we have is a tremendous challenge. And so that's why council is really focused on trying to find new and creative ways to provide these services. We're exploring merging our fire department with Hazel Park to see if that will maintain the service at a cheaper cost. And there's other services that we're going to look at to see if there isn't things that we could do in a new way so that we can continue to provide these. But the other great challenge, I think, is once we figure out our finances and we get ourselves stabilized, where do we want Ferndale to go in the next 5 or 10 years? We've sort of in some ways hit a plateau. We have redeveloped our downtown, we have strong neighborhoods, and yet I think a lot of us feel like, okay, what's next? What's the next great thing for Ferndale? And so one of the things I want to do over the course of the next 2 years is really engage the community in some sort of goal setting so that we can talk as a community about where does our downtown go next? What do we do with our neighborhoods? How do we take Ferndale, which is a great city, and make it even greater? And so I think those are both related but separate issues that we're going to have to grapple with in the next couple of years.
All right, well, thank you.
Donnie,
Next,
put him in his chair.
We have some pre-voters out there who are
Yes, we do.
who are
And they're a little
exercising
biased.
I'm trying to give Mom a break.
their democratic rights to speak out. The next question is more focused, and that is, what do you see with respect to the future of the Kulik Center?
I think I've shared this story before, but the first volunteer thing I did when I moved to Ferndale 20 years ago is I got involved with what was called the Senior Citizens Task Force, which Jerry Kulik was the chair of. And very quickly she said, I don't want this to be the Senior Citizen Task Force, I want this to be the Community Center Task Force, because seniors need to interact with the community, and the community needs to interact with seniors, and we both benefit when we interact with each other. So I have a bias and a passion for our community center. I think it's an important part of our community. It's one of those things that I said is the kind of investment that I think makes Ferndale unique. So we've had to slash, frankly, the budget over there. Nobody has absorbed bigger budget cuts than the Recreation Department and the Kulik Center, but we've managed to figure out a way to keep it open. It's one of the main reasons I supported the millage in May, because we would have closed the Senior Center, the Kulik Center, had that not happened. And the value of it, you know, was shown in July when we had the power outage, and we turned the Kulik Center into our 24-hour cooling center, which, you know, could potentially have saved lives in this community. So I think that speaks to the value of having it. And as mayor, I'll try to do everything I can to find the funding to keep it going.
Okay. Ray Willis?
I thought we got the Kulik Center for $1 from the school. I guess I'll look more into to how that's all financed. I enjoyed doing the forum there the other day. I'd like to see the center maybe utilized more for youth activities. I find that, especially in the summer, that, you know, not having a beach here in Ferndale, that it's hard to keep the children entertained. So we would like to look more into what activities are available for the children in the summer there, and if not, like to see more activities geared towards the children at the center.
Okay, the next question also focuses on a specific issue. It's phrased in this way: is crime a big problem in Ferndale?
Crime's a big problem all over the whole state. And it's not just an inner city or inner suburb rim problem. I've been, like I said, all over the west side of the state, to little communities, to the largest cities. When I owned the restaurant, one of my customers come in one time, and he said he finally got to his cabin up north because it snowed in and it's inaccessible. And he said they had gone in and stripped the paneling off the inside walls of his cabin up in irons. And he said the only way they could have done it is on snowmobiles. And so it doesn't really matter where you're at. I read in the paper that the youth, the gangs, don't bring weapons into Ferndale because they know they'll end up getting caught. This really says a lot about police protection in this city. There's a lot that we as citizens can do to help the police out with their jobs. I've noticed that there's some men in my area and then also in Hazel Park who are walking around open carrying. At first it seems a little strange and it might seem straightforward, but when you look at what you're up against, and especially when you're out with your wife and children, this doesn't seem like such a bad idea. Concealed weapon permits are of course acceptable, but nobody knows, and you're more likely to end up in a gunfight with somebody when they can just look and see that you're carrying a sidearm. Once again, the Headley override for me was really all about police protection, and I'm happy with the response I get when I do have problems, even if it's just with the neighborhood kids getting out of control.
Dave Coulter?
Thank you. A month ago at the debate, I said that one crime is one crime too many. And some of you may know that since then, I have actually been a victim of crime in this city. My house was robbed a couple of weeks ago. So I can now personally say that one crime is one crime too many. It's a violation, and it's a disturbing thing, and no one should have to go through it. But thank God that I live in Ferndale, where the police were there within a minute and a half. We have outstanding police protection, and that's one of the reasons we need it. All that being said, it hasn't changed my belief that I also said last month, which is We don't have a crime spike going on in Ferndale. We don't have rise in crime. In fact, the police chief has told us that over the last 5 years, we've had a fairly steady decline in the number of crimes in Ferndale. But again, one crime is too many, and I can attest to that, so we will work hard to make sure that our police is staffed at a level that can respond like they always have. But despite my personal experience and despite all of that, I still think this is a relatively safe community to live in part because of our strong police protection.
Okay. The next question, I think, focuses on yourself in relationship to other leaders in the area, and it's phrased this way. Talk about your relationship with the wider region, Detroit specifically.
And I guess I'm first on this. I think it's really important that Ferndale not just be in a cocoon and think about Ferndale as if it's all by itself. We are part of a larger region, and the largest city in that region is Detroit, and we need a great relationship with the city of Detroit. Our problems don't stop at 8 Mile or DeQuinder. The problems of Southeast Michigan affect all of us, and so it's important that we have those relationships. I meet with folks in Detroit all the time. Charles Pugh is an acquaintance of mine who I've talked with a number of times. I've met with the mayor of Detroit on ways that we can collaborate and work more together. A great statistic that our DDA director told me is that 50% of the people that shop in our downtown are from the city of Detroit. Our future and our success is directly tied to theirs, as I think theirs is tied to us. So we're all in this together, and to the extent that we can work with not only Detroit, but Huntington Woods and Pleasant Ridge and Oak Park and Hazel Park, makes us a stronger community, and I'll always look for ways to strengthen those relationships.
Ray Willis?
Well, since I have basically come out of nowhere and not been really involved with politics, I can't personally say I've been very active with communicating towards other communities in the area. As some people have probably heard, one of my concerns, my children have begged me to do anything I can to try to get the state fair going again. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sitting up here in front of you, is just to bring some, just to get the idea going again. And part of that is working with Detroit, working with the other communities to show them how much economically they're losing and culturally that they're losing by not having the fairgrounds up and running. And it's the same with so many other things. The light rail, I see there's an interest now, which was a no-brainer to me in the beginning, to not stop at 8 Mile, but to bring it into the suburbs. This is important for everybody. My son was recently, and we went to New Center, and we wanted to go see the Fisher Building about craziness after listening to Paul Harvey being beamed out of there. And my son, we didn't go into the museum, but we went into the library across the street from the museum, and there's some beautiful murals there. If you ever get a chance to go into the Detroit Library there, you have to do this. But my son was saying, I can live down here? I can go to school down here? He was just, the buildings, he was amazed, like, you never been in the city before? But, you know, my son is going to Grand Valley in Grand Rapids, and he can get on the transportation system and from his house and go downtown or go to the campus out in the country. And that light rail would be able to do the same for my son here. If he wants to go to Wayne State, he could get on the light rail and access the New Center area. So yeah, it's really important that we work with all cities around us, and I'd like to see more shared cooperation between police and fire departments and government, of course.
Okay. The next question, which, since we're flipping back and forth, you each have like 2 in a row. So, what important Ferndale voices get left out of our political conversations? How do we better communicate with them?
I don't know which voices get left out. The communication, I feel, is there. If you're shut in, you can watch the council meetings on the television. Part of the reason I'm up here once again is because, well, I have the time to do it now, but I also feel it's a civil duty for everybody to get involved with government, and that just doesn't mean voting. I'm kind of disappointed that more people didn't run for the position of mayor after how many applied for the job back in February, January. Going into Wall Street and camping out and protesting is not, it might be a way to get things done, might be a way to have your voice heard, but if you really want to make a change, you go down to the council meetings and you talk to the city about your problems. It's open. Anybody can go and do that. And if you really want to get involved, if you're mad you can run for mayor, anybody can do it. It only took me, what, 150 hours to collect 100 signatures? And the same, too, is when you're happy with the government, it's not time to just sit back and do nothing. I'm not up here because I have an agenda or I'm mad about it. I'd love to work with the city of Ferndale. So even if things are going great, sometimes that's when you need to get up and take charge of things. So yeah, with all the computers, you know, the availability of Dave or even I, if you got problems, you want to go in front of the city, call me up, I'll talk with you and I'll go talk to the city about it. Yeah, as far as, I suppose, the senior citizens, maybe the 18-year-olds. Maybe their voice isn't heard, but once again, that's their fault.
Okay. Dave Coulter.
Really good question, very thought-provoking, because we try, as I do as mayor, and I know the council does, to reach out, communicate in as many ways as we can. But you know, there are going to be people that, for whatever reason, don't raise their hand, don't come to council, don't tell us what's going on, and so it's a very thought-provoking question. I guess one group that comes to mind for me are just ordinary residents of the community. We hear from the business owners a lot, and we do hear from the seniors, and we hear from the groups in town. But since we've lost our block club network, we've probably lost a communications link that used to be stronger. And so to the extent that we can talk to residents better and that they have a channel to talk to us, and it probably won't be in the old ways that we used to do it. It won't be in an old block club network like we used to do. But we can use Facebook, or we can use emails, or we can use more modern means to talk to each other, and I think we could strengthen ourselves that way. And maybe a subset of that is the renters. I'm always trying to be mindful. I'm a homeowner, a lot of us are, and we have an investment in this community. But just because you rent here doesn't mean that you're not an important member of the community too, and that's probably another group of people whose concerns we don't always hear enough from.
Ray? I'm sorry.
Next question.
I'm sorry, I'm on to the next question. I'm slipping. This question, again, goes back to you personally. Who are your models for strong, good leadership?
Wow, I have a lot of them, but I'll give a couple local examples of people who I've really sort of studied and tried to be more like. And these two people, by the way, couldn't be more unlike each other. So you'll see that when I say it. Number one, our former city manager, Tom Barwin, to me was a visionary when it came to how to redevelop an older inner ring suburb like Ferndale. He had ideas that at the time, a lot of us, including me, went, huh? That can never work. That might work in one of your textbooks, Tom, but you can't make that work. And issue after issue, he would bring these things to life. One of them was the idea of slowing the traffic down on 9 Mile to make it come to life. A lot of people thought, you slow the traffic down, people are just going to avoid the downtown. They're going to drive around it. That was very counterintuitive. So Tom was he had the audacity to think big and to have a vision that was bigger than where people were at, and I remember that. The other flip side of that was sort of his nemesis, Brooks Patterson, who I worked with for 8 years. But let me tell you, I learned this about Brooks Patterson. One of the reasons I think he's an effective leader is because he surrounds himself with really smart people, maybe people smarter than him. And so the lesson that I learned there is don't be afraid, don't be intimidated to have people around you who are smarter than you, who can give you good advice and make you a better leader, because he does that very well. And so I would point to those two folks.
Right.
So, read the question again.
Who are your models for strong/good leadership?
I've always really liked President Carter, which is a lot of people, what? But I like the way he simplified the office of president, how he toned the hail to the chief down and just got in there with his sweater and went and got the job done. It's a shame that the Iranian crisis robbed him of his second presidency, because I think he could have done a lot of good for this country. And what he's done with Homes for Humanity afterwards, I've always been really impressed with him getting out there with a hammer and building houses for people. Locally, I've studied the politics and tried to understand what's going on at the county level. But one of my true heroes was George Patton, of all people. He was very serious about what he did. He was very serious about how to perform his job, and he made other people look at themselves and bring themselves up to par with what their job was supposed to be. I have shown the Patton movie to my children and try to explain a little bit about the language that they used at the beginning, but to show them what it really means to be prepared even for school. You don't want to go to school looking like a rag bag. You don't want to be unprepared. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the school system means to me and what it's done for my children when we get finished.
Okay. The next question, Ray, you've actually alluded to this before, and it is, how do you have enough time to devote to this office?
Well, I was getting to that in my earlier explanation. Although I'm still incorporated and the business was there, and I actually did a job this week, I quit working last August during the day because my wife was pregnant and she couldn't handle Richie anymore. So I only work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights for like 4 hours a night, 16 hours a week. I have all the time in the world during the day because now that the baby is born and Richie is walking, we're going to put him in school also, since his development has just been amazing the last year. So even when he's here, you can see that I have the ability to come up and be in front of you. And once again, alluding to, if I can find time to spend at least 150 hours canvassing to get on this and be in front of you, I obviously have enough time to do anything that the city would like me to do if I take this job, or if you give me this job by voting for me.
Dave?
It's a very busy job, and I think I said this before too, but I guess one of the things I've discovered is if you want to get something done, find a busy person to have do it, because when you're in the mode, when you've decided that you're not going to have much free time in your life, and you've given that up, which I guess I've essentially done, you can be a very productive person. I think people find me to be a very active mayor. I go to many, many events. People see me around a lot. I take this job very seriously. I work very hard at it. I also have another job. I also have boards that I serve on. So I am a very busy person. I basically decided that I won't have much of a home life. I don't spend very many evenings sitting on the couch watching television. Someday after I retire, I will do that. But for now, I enjoy being busy because I love the kinds of things that I get to be busy at, which is supporting this community and all the great things that go on here. So Saturday, I was the judge of the Halloween contest at the Hilton Fall Festival. I mean, where else do you get to do fun stuff like that? So it may take time, but I love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, our final question, which I guess we'll call the vision question. Where or how do you see Ferndale in 5 years?
And that starts with me, right?
That's right, Dave,
yeah,
because we're flipping.
Well, this gets to what I talked about how we need to start to create a vision for Ferndale going forward. And I don't know all of the answers. I really do want to have a conversation with the community about that. But I think that part of the answer is going to have to be, there's a new generation of young people growing up today, the millennials they're called. They work in what's called a knowledge economy. They have different values than folks my age do. They're not as wedded to owning a house. They're not as wedded to owning a car. They want mass transportation. They want good affordable housing, but they don't have to own the house. They're a different generation, but they really are the key to the future, I think, for cities. If cities are going to survive and prosper in the future, we're going to have to figure out how we deliver services to a different group of people that expect different things from city government. And so one of the things I want to explore over the next couple of years is what can we do to make this community more attractive to young families and this millennial population that I think is going to be the future not only of Ferndale but of Michigan. If Michigan's going to survive and if the new Henry Fords are going to create the new industries in Michigan, it's going to come from this group. And I want them to do it here in Ferndale. And so I think we have to figure out how to be the most attractive city to those types of folks. So that's definitely part of the answer for me.
Great.
This is probably one of the toughest questions that was on your survey, and I've given it some thought. I'm not a great visionary. I try to live day to day, but I'm also a gardener, so I do plan from year to year. I would love to see a lot more industry, businesses, especially in the area where I'm at. There's a lot of vacancy, huge amount of square foot vacancy. New businesses moving in. It doesn't really matter what, if they're production or if they're communication. There's also a large amount of vacancy in my immediate area with the residential units. I don't know how the city can work to get businesses and houses rented out, besides to, like Dave says, to be attractive to this young crowd. I see the importance of mass transit and understand where Dave's coming from about the difference in attitude with the younger crowd. It's a very, very tough question. Besides, I'd love to see every business that's available to be rented out, and maybe it's something that we can do with tax abatements. Just making Ferndale as desirable as possible for everybody, and more work with the school systems, I guess.
All right, well, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to closing statements. I'm sorry. The first time for me, so
You're doing just
my
fine.
second flub. Third error, I may have to be kicked out. Who
I guess I
made the
started it
first
time.
the opening statement?
Started.
Yeah.
So we'll turn it on.
What I was getting to with my speech at the beginning was that we have paid for cars. We don't use credit cards. We bought a house that we could afford, even with me working part-time. The schools seem to be a big concern for a lot of people. My son Chandler just received a medal for scholastic for meat tests. The schools, it's not a school problem, it's a parent problem. When Chandler comes home from school and Donnie, the first thing they do is they sit down and do their homework. Chandler never missed a homework assignment last year. Although they go to Hazel Park high schools, it's the same with any school. It doesn't matter if you go to Troy, it doesn't matter if you go to Cranbrook, I suppose. In the long run, everybody's got that opportunity to do well on their own and at home and be able to go to any college of their choice. Living here, it's not about the nightlife, it's not about the walkability, it's about what my wife and I can afford. She doesn't work, she stays at home. She's active in the school. She goes and walks the kids to school. I also am active with the school when there's events that our parents are invited to, we both go. My wife works with the class, with Donnie's class, 2 hours a week, doing tests on scores. I'm very surprised at how active she is. In fact, she says that you can tell which students have help at home because they're the ones who understand the homework, and you don't have to go over it with them 3 times. You can tell the parents who are active with the school, and it's a shame because she says there's only a few of these parents. Sometimes it's not about achieving that big McMansion house and the BMW. It's about being involved with the community, active with the community. I'm not impressed. by your leased BMW. I'm impressed by someone who can pay their bills and get by and take care of their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Well, again, thank you to CFF for hosting this forum. I think it was really helpful, and I guess I would end by thanking the residents and voters of Ferndale. You've elected me 4 times as county commissioner. You elected me to be state senator last year, even though the rest of the district did not. And I can just tell you that it's such a privilege to be elected by your community to represent them, and it's also a great honor that I take seriously every day. I work every day thinking, what can I do that's in the best interest of Ferndale? This isn't about me. This isn't about groups that I like or people that I like. I really do try to do this job every day and think, what can I do to make Ferndale a better place for the people that live here? And it's been an honor and a privilege to represent Ferndale. And with your support in November, I'll do that for another 2 years. And all I can promise, I don't offer a lot of promises. You don't hear me say a lot of promises. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I only tell you that I will do my best every day to bring the community together, to listen to all voices, and try to come to collective decisions that move our community forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.